Yeah. You ever have that surprise burp or hiccup,
Oh,
and then you get
gosh.
that taste and you're like, "Oh, I've
Yeah.
been eating onions."
Yeah, that's definitely just in general. You saw all that stuff when you were younger about older folks
Oh.
like, "Oh, I shouldn't have eaten Chinese."
Right, right.
Here we are.
Speaking of bad aftertaste, that's my week 17, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Championship Talk. Let's flip and do this.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
You God blessed right. It's La Marvelous. You saw the thumbnail, beautiful thumbnail, footballguys.com. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom on the Audible recapping week 17 and a huge week, Bloom.
Yeah.
Huge week for everybody. Patriots and Buffalo is the first game we're going to talk about. And in this one, it's 27-21. Buffalo Bills getting that win. Now, because it's New Year's Eve, everyone be safe and be happy as you can. I'm going to toss every game to you just with both teams, okay? So it's a different from our normal format, but haven't we been doing that now for a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Because we just tried to get through to the end of the year, but when Bailey Zappi throws 3 picks, the Bills still barely win, but they win, Bloom. That's the most important thing. And where all of this playoff positioning is happening, the Bills get it done.
Yeah, and in some ways, Week 17 is fun because it's the fantasy championship week, and there are also some very weighty stakes in some of these games. On the New England side, Jalen Reagor sighting, special teams, return touchdown. Zeke was having a terrible day, had a touchdown at the end, but this is what happens when you rely on the Patriots offense. Remember back at the beginning of the year when we thought nothing good is going to come out of this offense? Well, Ramondre Stevenson for a little bit. Bailey Zappi did have a touchdown run, and this team's going to pick probably in the top 3 if they lose to the Jets next week. On the Buffalo side, we've seen this. Cease, I think they listen to you too much as the Bills are committed to the run and the passing game is anemic. And if you benched Stephon Diggs, so we're going to look at some choices you made today where you're benching big names and it worked out. Some choices where you're benching big names and it didn't. But benching Stephon Diggs absolutely was the right call. And Dalton Kincaid, benching him was the right call, except Dawson Knox got hurt. And Dalton Kincaid had a solid game. They're playing for the division title. And depending on how things go, it's like division title or out of the playoffs. So the Bills, they've won 4 straight, but they're still not out of the woods.
Not out of the woods just yet. Atlanta and Chicago, it just doesn't matter. But I guess it matters for Bears fans. 37-17, a big day for them. And they weren't even responsible for their big day, Bloom. But we had draft picks secured. We had playoff number 1 seed secured. Like huge day for the Chicago Bears offense. 37-17. 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 for Khalil Herbert, 1 for Justin Fields, 1 for Roshan Johnson, DJ Moore getting a touchdown and 159 yards on the Atlanta side. It's still never enough Bijan. This entire flipping season has been like, why isn't it Bijan? And then, of course, why is it Taylor Heineke? But it wasn't because he threw 3 picks. So here comes Desmond Ridder to throw his own pick.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about the Bears.
Yeah, cameo appearance, right? And all the crowd's like, yay, oh, there he is. Oh, he threw the interception. He did it. He did the thing to say the line, threw the interception. And yeah, I mean, on the Atlanta side, you saw Tyler Algier with a long touchdown, catch and run. Drake London started hot and then well, it's Atlanta, so you know he's not going to be good. Bijan Robinson again, just not doing enough. See, so we're not even going to mention Kyle Pitts. Wait, I just did. But that's the point. He had 1 catch. Wow. It's been a rough year. And I guess we wind up Atlanta by saying, well, they can play spoiler at New Orleans next week. And is that it for Arthur Smith? I mean, the fantasy community's hoping so. We don't really hope for bad things to happen to people, but we hope for good things to happen to this Falcons team with the talent they have assembled that they can't take advantage of. DJ Moore got a little banged up last week. Certainly at the beginning of the week, I thought he was going to be limited in practice and so on, but we saw him get in full practices and yeah, he helped deliver fantasy championships today, as did Justin Fields. Could have even been a bigger day for Justin Fields, but you saw rushing touchdowns. If you played with Dante Foreman, again inactive. So look at the journey of Dante Foreman. Healthy scratch, lead back, 3 touchdown game, falling down on the depth chart, personal matter scratch, and then he was practicing this week, still a scratch. Roshan Johnson, he's going to be an interesting sleeper pick next year. Khalil Herbert, great game for him. So both of these Bears running backs hit. Cole Kmet was active. I hope you didn't plug him into the last second because he was active because, well, Robert Tonyan actually got the tight end receptions here. They're going to Green Bay. They can play spoiler. They clinched the #1 pick. And it's not strictly playing spoiler because if the winner of the game that's going on right now loses and Seattle loses to Arizona, who beat Philly today, spoiler alert, the Bears can still make the playoffs. The team with the #1 pick making the playoffs. It is still possible.
That's why the NFL's just bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. Week 17 recap continues. It is the Colts 23. It is the Raiders 20. Pot Stoner degenerate Jason getting that Baja Blast Mountain Dew as Taco Bell and some of those edibles because, Devontae Adams, though. Hey, if you ever need to score, just throw it up for Devontae. That was such a beautiful grab. Beautiful. Zamir White out there getting it done, but it is the Colts that get the win and in an interesting way. Bloom, let's talk about it.
Yeah, on the Raiders side, Devontae Adams, absolutely. A lot of people won their fantasy championship today because of him. And hey, this is a good moment for me to say we're partnering with Fantasy Cares because us in the fantasy football community, we do care. FantasyCares.org/giveback. And this is a way for you, if you won today, I know I'm going to do it. Give in the name of a player that helped you win. Give in the name of Devontae Adams, Aiden O'Connell. He's been a good story this year, and in Superflex, he was a hit. Zamir White, if you're plugging him in, he in PPR leagues, it was plenty good for you. And with Josh Jacobs and his status next year, you wonder if Zamir White has done enough over this last month to show that he deserves to be the feature back next year. So that's going to be an interesting player to watch. On the Indy side, pretty straightforward Jonathan Taylor game. Alec Pierce, still in your dynasty leagues. Look for this guy to really start to break out if they can get Anthony Richardson back on the field next year. Because Alec Pierce, you saw with the long touchdown. Michael Pittman, he was able to play, didn't do a lot for your team here as Indy controlled this game. So they didn't really have to open up the offense with Gardner Minshew. Speaking of Gardner Minshew, playing Houston next week with a playoff berth on the line. And if Tennessee can beat Jacksonville, a division title on the line. So you love the playoff games, especially when they involve Gardner Minshew.
Championship week abounds in fantasy football leagues, and we are here for you, LA Rams and New York Giants. Welp, 26-25. That was a little more than we thought, mainly because of Tyrod. We'll get to that on the Giants side, but 26-25, the Rams, they're getting that win, and Kyron Williams. Yeah, Kyron Williams. And Puka Nacua.
MVP.
Yeah, certainly fantasy MVP. Have we ever seen a longer play that didn't score? Puka Nacua running out of gas on that big 80-yarder, but either way, fun to watch. Fun to watch Tyrod on the flip side there, Bloom, as well. Except for that one flip to Saquon. Could have had a receiving touchdown to Saquon, but he just put it out there, and it was just it's on Tyrod. That's on Tyrod. Yeah. Saquon would have made an amazing catch. Well, let's discuss this thing because fantasy excitement, especially if you started Kyron Williams.
Yeah, and congratulations to the Rams, who will be returning to the playoffs on the back of this win. But it wasn't so much a win as the Giants snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Kyron Williams with 3 touchdowns. He's the fantasy MVP. And what's amazing about that is that he went on IR for 4 games. So even missing the middle of the season, this is a good lesson in fantasy football value. Now, some of it is that he was a late round pick or a waiver wire pickup, and he looked good. At the beginning of the year, he was getting a lot of compiling stats, but today, he's really grown up as a running back. How high is he going to go in drafts next year? You saw Matthew Stafford spreading it around. Tyler Higbee did well. Demarcus Robinson, there was some good football in that guy that they weren't. You think the Chiefs could use him right now? The way he's playing for the Rams? Yeah. And also, of course, Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown. How would the season have gone if he hadn't come into it injured? We'll see. Rams with nothing to play for facing San Francisco with nothing to play for. The Giants had so many chances to win this game. Actually sees that pitch that was off was a 2-point conversion to go ahead after a Gunnar Olszewski long punt return for a touchdown. Also, after that, the Giants got the ball back, drove down for a Mason Crosby. Remember him? Mason Crosby field goal attempt. Missed it. So that's how the Rams get in the playoffs. That's how the Giants fall apart. But Tyrod Taylor looked like a starting quarterback. Maybe not one of the best starting quarterbacks, but somebody needs to be starting this guy next year over some of the players we've seen starting. Heck, he could be a good Steelers starter for all I care. Darius Slayton with a touchdown in this one. Wan'Dale Robinson finally with a big game. Saquon Barkley letting us down. If you bench Saquon Barkley in this game, it was the right move, although it might have been the wrong move if he had just caught a ball late in the game. Maybe he could have ran for a 50, 55-yard touchdown as Tyrod Taylor put it right on him in the open field, and all he would have had to do probably is make one guy miss, and he would have been taken to the house, and they would have won. So Saquon Barkley, Saquon Barkley letting us down. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him in free agency. They're facing Philadelphia next week. They've got a top 8 pick coming. And Cecil, what is this? Is this a 4 quarterback draft? 5 quarterback draft?
I mean, for real or for what's going to be in the first round? It might be 5 or 6, but
right.
The real, there's 3. There's 3 guys.
They're going to be in position potentially to get one of the 3. We'll see.
Till Sean Payton moves up to number 1 overall. Anyway, Arizona and Philadelphia. What the hell, Philadelphia? I mean, what the hell? Like, seriously. Now, what's Arizona going to do with Kyler Murray, right? Like, oh, no, you got question marks. Questions abound, but answers. 35-31. Eagles on a slide, man. Cardinals with the win, and they do it with Kyler Murray with the 3 touchdown passes. Watching James Conner is just fun. Oh. God bless James Conner for every single reason. And then with the Eagles, it's like, well, what's happening here? This is odd. This is very odd. But Arizona, you got a good coach. Let's see what you can do with your quarterback situation. If you even make a change there.
Right.
This looked pretty good today.
Well, in the first half, it looked like basically what we expected. 21-6, the Eagles lead at the half in this one. Instead, though, the Cardinals go on 2-0 in the state of Pennsylvania this year. Painful for me to admit that. On the Arizona side, the best game Kyler Murray has played this year by a large margin, and a game cease that, like you said, puts some doubt in the idea of, because Arizona is going to be able to get one of these top quarterbacks if they want one. Maybe they don't. James Conner, and now James Conner at $5.2 million next year looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. James Conner, one of the best players down the stretch. A lot of people winning fantasy championships today because of James Conner, and a one-handed catch for a touchdown that any wide receiver would be jealous of. A beautiful, gorgeous, like he catches every touchdown with one hand. It was no big deal. He just reached his hand out and snagged it. You saw Greg Dortch in the open field making plays. Michael Wilson, is Michael Wilson the number 1 receiver for this team next year? Well, he looked like one getting open for a game-tying touchdown late. Remember, they have 2 first-round picks, so they can move up if they want to. They're trying to play spoiler against Seattle next week. Julio Jones. What if I told you in week 17 Julio Jones would be a 2-touchdown fantasy? Well, if he was in your lineup, please screenshot it and send it to us, and we will call you out for that one, as Julio Jones scores twice. Because of that, nothing really from A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith leaves on crutches and in a walking boot. And Philadelphia, if they beat the Giants next week and Washington beats Dallas, that's a big ask. They can get back to the 2 seed, but otherwise they're the 5 seed, going on the road to play Tampa Bay or New Orleans, but then likely going on the road to play Dallas. And remember, Dallas at home versus Dallas on the road, or San Francisco. We remember what San Francisco did. Yeah. See, I think in the business they call this a swoon, what's happening to the Eagles in the second half of this year. And it's one that, as close as they got to winning the Super Bowl, Cease, you wonder if the Jalen Hurts Eagles are going to go back to the Super Bowl.
All right.
Not this year.
Yeah, not this year. You wonder what's going on with Tampa losing to New Orleans 23-13, and it's Derek Carr with a couple of touchdowns, one to Juwan Johnson, one to Taysom Hill. Our dear friend Jamal Williams leading the team in rushing. And then on the flip side, Trey Palmer, dynasty, love him. Chris Godwin scoring, yes. Mike Evans doing more than he usually does, but Marshawn Lattimore's been shut down since, Thanksgiving? Whatever. Anyway, and then Rachaad White letting you down today. Let's discuss this one. Interesting one. I was picking Tampa at home. I was wrong.
Yeah, Tampa could have locked up the division in this one. Instead, the Saints stay alive, but the Saints still need some help. Derek Carr was good, not great, but good enough in this one. Touchdown to Juwan Johnson, who gets a little banged up early, makes a beautiful diving catch. And sees how many diving catches do you see with a somersault? Style points. Can we have style points in fantasy football? Well, I would never get any style points, so maybe we shouldn't do that. Taysom Hill catching a touchdown. Chris Olave. Nobody should have benched Chris Olave. Chris Olave letting us down in this one, though, in a good matchup. Alvin Kamara leaves hurt. Is this his last game as a Saint? Maybe. Do like $12 million next year. Saints always perpetual cap problems. Atlanta coming. They need Tampa Bay to lose to Carolina, or they need Seattle to lose to Arizona and the winner of the game going on right now to lose. So, yeah, Saints, because of that loss to the Rams, really hurt their playoff chances, even with this win. Saints defense was good. Baker Mayfield had 2 late touchdowns to bail you out. If you played him, Godwin catches 1. That bails you out. Trey Palmer had the ground cease. The ground can cause a fumble. All of our life, we've been hearing the ground can't cause a fumble. The ground can cause a fumble if you're not touched. That's what happened to Trey Palmer on a long bomb that he caught. Went to the ground, coughed up the ball. That was sad. And like you said, Rachaad White, look, you could not have asked more out of Rachaad White than what you got from him this year, even if he didn't deliver it in the fantasy championship game. Again, Tampa Bay, no big deal. You just got to beat Carolina, and you will host a playoff game, probably against the Eagles.
Injuries suck, so I'm going to get sad because we're talking about Christian McCaffrey. 49ers 27-10 over the Washington Commanders. Just let it end. Poor Jacoby Brissett. He looks good in relief of Sam Howell for 2 weeks. Then he gets to start. Then he gets a hamstring injury on a Thursday. And so he misses the game. Here comes Sam Howell. Whatever. It's what it is. But Christian McCaffrey injury, the big one here, making fantasy GMs cry everywhere.
Yeah, and you wonder, because it wasn't just the injury, it was that he could have had a much bigger game without the injury. And again, McCaffrey, a lot of McCaffrey teams in the finals. My McCaffrey team lost, not because of McCaffrey, because the other team was really good. But you're kind of stopped at the goal line with McCaffrey carrying your team, and then his calf lets out. We're not going to see him next week. San Francisco locks up the 1 seed. We're just going to see him rest for a couple weeks and see if this calf injury responds. Purdy was just okay for fantasy. Against Washington, you were really expecting a massive game. It was okay. Part of it was, well, Washington's not very good. Brandon Ayuk came through. Really nice improvisation play, extended play by Brock Purdy. Yes, he can do that. Elijah Mitchell looking really good off the line. Looking really good opening holes for him. Don't know if it's going to be him or Jordan Mason. We'll talk about that in the preview. We'll be watching that. Both of them. Week 18. Why do we not have Week 18 Super Bowls? Because you can't play your 49ers and Ravens. That's ridiculous. So, again, playing the Rams next week. Number 1 seeds, they can rest everyone they want to rest. Terry McLaurin gets a touchdown from Sam Howell. By the way, Sam Howell benched and showing why he was benched. Like you said, with Jacoby Brissett, like Tyrod Taylor, he deserves a chance to start somewhere next year. Brian Robinson was back and looking good. And, well, the game script really kept him from having a bigger game. And, again, Washington can play spoiler, knock Dallas out of the 2 seed, out of the division title. But, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Carolina and Jacksonville. Speaking of what's not going to happen, I don't even want to talk about this game, but CJ Beathard being plucky, Travis Etienne winning it all for you, I guess. And I hope you weren't starting any Carolina Panther.
Yeah, Bryce Young.
Oh, by the way, 26-0.
Yeah, 26-0.
That's why. That's
well,
why.
And probably the thing people remember out of this one is David Tepper throwing a drink on some Jacksonville fans, which is like, Cecil, I know you say you don't like the Jacksonville fans, but they got David Tepper to throw a drink on them. So that immediately puts them way up in the fan power ranking list, right?
Yes, of
like
course, yeah. Well, Jacksonville fans don't like me, Bloom. I like everyone. Well,
they don't like you. I'm sorry. You did see Bryce Young. If you watched Bryce Young and you didn't know anything about his origin, and someone told you that the Panthers gave up DJ Moore and 2 first-round picks to get him, you would say, what? Why? Last week's game was kind of just a nice dream they woke up from. As this week, it's kind of like Zach Wilson having that good game against the Texans, and then all of a sudden remembering he's Zach Wilson. You saw Jacksonville help Bryce Young remember he's Bryce Young. He just looks overwhelmed. Nothing really much to speak of here for fantasy. They're going to get the 33rd pick, and it's a good thing that the 2nd-round pick they sent to the Bears is a 2025 pick, because they almost sent the 1st and 33rd pick over to the Bears. A lot of field goals with CJ Beathard. Travis Etienne. If you stuck with him, you got a 62-yard touchdown, another short touchdown, and he is one of the players who'll be a Week 18 stud, or at least projected as one, as Jacksonville is playing for the division title. Ingram was okay. Ridley, well, what did you expect with CJ Beathard? Again, you beat Tennessee on the road, you win the division, you host a playoff game. But if not, well, chaos. That's the AFC South this year.
Yeah, it is making that chaos happen. Chaos in Baltimore. Pandemonium. You haven't won anything yet, but they're probably going to. Who's going to stop them? Joe Flacco might put up a fight, right? So I'm kind of fast forwarding that. But oh my God, Baltimore, Miami, the last 2 weeks, like, hey, Baltimore 49ers is going to be a good one. No, Baltimore kicks their ass. Hey, Baltimore, Miami's going to be a good one. Sorry, Joe. They kicked their flipping ass.
Yeah, they did it. Yep.
Yes, up and down, 56-19, not even close. So bad, Melvin Gordon scored. Okay, like rich man, poor man. Melvin Gordon scoring touchdowns.
Yeah. Tyler
Yeah.
Huntley was in. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley was in. Rich man, poor man. Isaiah Likely is beautiful, wonderful, awesome. So yeah, let's talk about it. No Jalen Waddle, of course, for the Dolphins, but Tyreek couldn't do as much, and well, Tua couldn't do as much, and Tua, well, a little shoulder thing. Like this thing was different than what I thought it would be.
Yeah. This one sees, especially after the Miami-Baltimore game last year, and they were trying to hint at it. I think this one was 35-13 going into the fourth quarter. Oh, well, last year's game, what was the score of that game going into the fourth quarter? Well, it just got worse. And this was one where a heavyweight fight, you're looking for, duking it out, exchanging blows. No, it was just the Ravens pummeling the Dolphins and really reinforcing this idea, okay, you beat the Cowboys on the road. On the Miami side, you did see with Raheem Mostert out, and we'll see what his status is for week 18. But Mostert's out, Devin Achane resuming league winner status and helping people win leagues today. Tua hurt his shoulder, said he's okay, did enough to not be a bust, but not the big game you were looking for. No Jalen Waddle, no one in particular. Durham Smythe was okay. No one in particular. Cedric Wilson scoring a touchdown. Tyreek Hill was okay. Tyreek Hill helped get you here. Probably wasn't a big factor in winning the championship. And what you have also, they lost Bradley Chubb, and they lost Bradley Chubb when the game was out of hand already. They lost him when the game was already out of hand. So that's that. And it was a disaster, an absolute disaster for Miami. Now next week, Buffalo's coming to town. The division is on the line. Now, unlike Buffalo, if they lose, they're still going to go to the playoffs. But I mean, this team has probably got some confidence issues. No confidence issues from Lamar Jackson. MVP. That's it. He's the MVP. And it is kind of nice that Purdy and Jackson faced off, and Jackson and his team won decisively, and that decided the MVP race. And that, I'm fine with that because Lamar Jackson deserves his second AP MVP. If you played a Ravens running back, you were happy. Gus Edwards scored. Justice Hill, 564 and a touchdown through the air. I forget, he had significant rushing yards. He had an 80-yard kickoff return. Justice Hill is back, everybody. And Justice Hill, your playoff. I'm going to do my playoff fantasy rankings. Justice Hill is going to be a fun pick. Zay Flowers is going to be a fun pick. Gets in one limited practice of the calf, scores from 75 yards out. And Isaiah Likely. Yeah, Mark Andrews, run more 2 tight end sets. Get this guy on the field. Isaiah Likely is a future fantasy star. Beautiful one-handed catch. Just looks so smooth out there. And remember, the Ravens drafted him only because the Steelers took Calvin Austin. Why didn't the Steelers take Isaiah Likely? Anyway, you saw him, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. That's how we like it. Baltimore, the 1 seed, facing the Steelers, who beat them earlier this year. Facing the Steelers next week. Steelers have a chance to get in the playoffs. Baltimore doesn't have anything to play for, but we know when Baltimore and Pittsburgh play, yeah, there's still a lot to play for. I think Baltimore has to be worried about getting beat up in that game. So we'll see how they approach that one. Because, Cecil, I think there's philosophical questions about would you willingly have your players sit for basically 3 weeks before they play a playoff game? It's a tough question. But when you're facing the Steelers, who are still playing for the playoffs, maybe it's better to have your top players sit.
Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning would say no, but I bring up Peyton Manning because look at the advanced concepts at Lamar. I don't really want to talk about any of the other games, especially Denver's game, but look at the advanced concepts Lamar is just mastering.
Yeah.
Like for all the talk. And yeah, was it Bill Polian? You should be a wide receiver. Dumbest take in the history of takes. All right. The absolute, and all due respect to Bill Polian. Yeah, not really. You saying that kind of crap about a quarterback? Oh, he's a wide receiver. Yeah. Hey, old school. Get the hell out the way.
Yeah. Well, and then we had that item about Bill O'Brien telling the Alabama quarterback he shouldn't play quarterback, and now he's starting in a national championship semifinal. So yeah, old men, get out the way. Hey, wait, we're old.
Tennessee and Houston, the next game up. It's not as fun as Baltimore, but 26-3. And Ryan Tannehill's in because Will Levis, was that a heel? Something like that?
Yeah.
You might have felt like a heel if you started somebody, I don't know, Derrick Henry, maybe. Talk about Nuke Hopkins, another 1,000-yard receiving season. Let's talk about CJ Stroud back out there. Okay, good. Getting him ready for a postseason run. And then Nico Collins back out there. Good. Dalton Schultz back out there. Good. Getting healthy at the right time just to get beat by Baltimore in the playoffs. Anyway, let's talk about Houston winning against Tennessee.
Yeah, and what's fun about this one, well, on the Tennessee side, real quick, this is why I know everybody did those big best ball contests that go on, the big jackpot contests, that it comes down to like how your team, you winnow down the ranks until the teams like battle for the last 2 or 3 weeks for the big money. And when the schedule came out and they saw Derrick Henry against Houston week 15, Derrick Henry against Houston week 17, folks said, oh, that might make me draft Derrick Henry. Both of the games were huge bust games. So we saw Derrick Henry. These aren't always predictive when these teams play 2 weeks apart. This time it was. It wasn't totally predictive for Nuke Hopkins, but he didn't do anything to put you over the top, didn't do anything to hurt you. And trying to play spoiler again, a lot of teams, including our Pittsburgh Steelers, are going to be rooting for Tennessee next week. Devin Singletary was solid. He's still the lead back. Certainly he's a potential week 18 stud. Nico Collins. Yeah, Nico Collins. No Brown goes down in this one. So Nico Collins gets enough targets. Nico Collins helping a lot of teams get to the final and win the final. CJ Stroud didn't help you win the final because it was too easy. This game was just too easy. He didn't have to really press the issue here against the Titans. Houston, Indianapolis, it's a playoff game. Winner goes to the playoffs. Winner might win the division. And you love seeing that, Cease, in CJ Stroud's first year, in D'Amico Ryan's first year. Here they are, winning, you're in. And I know I'll be rooting for them.
Pittsburgh and Seattle is our next game up, 30-23. All you need is love. And Mason Rudolph. Well, maybe not Mason Rudolph. But anyway, need Najee Harris. I love Najee Harris. 30-23. Steelers win over Seattle. And, well, Seattle, this is who you are now.
Yeah.
They're a 500 team, baby. Like, that's, there you go.
Yeah. Should Kenny Pickett be forgot and never brought to mind? Start Mason at Baltimore and hope the Colts and Texans tie. You knew I was going to do it, Cease. You knew I was going to do it. And what's great is Mike Tomlin is like, I'm going to give you all something to buzz about. I'm not going to tell you who's starting. Thanks, Mike. Another winning season for Mike Tomlin, by the way. 17 without a losing season. Wow. I mean, hey, we see how in fantasy football it's a battle of attrition. We see how there's landmines, and the Steelers certainly have had so many struggles on offense. I mean, there's a testament to Mike Tomlin to keep his team's attention. And whether or not to make the playoffs, I think that you can say this season was successful for Mike Tomlin given what he had to work with. But what if Mason Rudolph had been starting all year? You know, or it started earlier in the year, because you can see the downfield passing game, and it's the 1-2 punch, baby, because I'm not a big Najee Harris fan in the sense that I would not have picked him as the first round pick for the Steelers. But when you're passing downfield, that's when the Najee Harris runs with a body blow, body blow, body blow, body blow, body blow. And then you have the slasher, the burst of Jaylen Warren. So you've got George Pickens, and man, you know, the Steelers are just, Martavis Bryant, it didn't last, right? We'll see. He's back. I know that he was, his name came up, but George Pickens is that kind of physical talent. I mean, just some of the things that George Pickens does, only George Pickens. He's maybe a better physical talent. So you saw all of these, even Deontay Johnson was okay. Where has this been? Where has this been? So here, and how did this team lose to New England and Arizona? Where, it's classic Steelers. You play down to the bad opponents and you play up on the road in a tough place to win. Miami wins. The Steelers have to beat Baltimore, first of all. If Miami wins, the Steelers are in. That's going to make me sad. If the Steelers get Buffalo's spot, that's going to make me sad. But of course, Buffalo has to win to get in. If Tennessee wins and the Steelers win, the Steelers are in. The Steelers can even get in if they lose. If Tennessee wins and Denver. Need some help from Denver, turn it into like a menage a trois or something like that. So if we can get that, the Steelers can back into the playoffs. But this was something fun to look forward to. And I, for one, am hoping for a quarterback competition, a good old, I don't care what pick you spent on Kenny Pickett. I see how much better this offense is. Kenny Walker was solid, hurt his shoulder again. Seattle needs some help, but they can still make the playoffs. Geno Smith was good, but not good enough to beat the Steelers. DK Metcalf was good. Tyler Lockett, where are you? Jackson Smith and Jigba, his 4th touchdown, a couple of big touchdowns, bigger things coming in the future for him. Playoffs are a big ask now. This team needs some help. I think they need the team that wins tonight to lose. And, you know, they've won a couple of stirring games, could not win this one as we look forward to 2024 and whatever it brings for us Steelers fans.
Menage a trois. Usually got to pay extra for that.
Yeah. Around the world.
Yeah. Greek. Let's talk about the Chargers and the Broncos.
Sorry, Joe. I got the shirt on.
All right, you got the shirt. Yeah. Sorry, Joe. I don't know what you're talking about there, buddy, but I don't like it. Get your sorry, Joe.
I was doing some Googling, buddy.
Don't Google it, Joe. Just go with it. Anyway, you got the Sorry Joe t-shirt. They're available for purchase at football.
Oh, yeah. And many colors too. I went with the Kerry green, and I went with the mustard, the classic Pirates mustard, but I've got some mustard shirts, so I went with some Kerry greens. Good luck. I'll wear it for like St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. Broncos and Chargers. Why? I don't. It's just whatever. This is when Sean Payton's gonna flex his muscles, and Jarrett Stidham is like as rusty as you can be. I'll have plenty of tea for you on Tuesday, baby. We got to get out of here and do New Year's. So we got 2 games left, baby. Let's Broncos, Broncos, Chargers,
yeah.
Sean Payton.
Battle of field goals. Yeah.
When Ryan Clark calls him a thug, though, I'm like, I wouldn't use that term for anyone. But anyway, like, he's not a thug. He is a tyrant, though. And this is what happens. You a bad person. Like, yeah. Yeah. Sean Payton, I'm going to prove a point. Jarrett Stidham, like, is painfully average.
Yeah. I mean, average for a backup. He's a painfully average 3rd string quarterback. Missed some throws today. Was good enough to get the win, but that's because the Chargers are swirling down the drain. On the Broncos side, well, nobody. Little Jordan Humphrey's good after the catch. Nobody. Chargers, nobody. Austin Eckler, do you bench your 1st-round pick in the fantasy championship? If it was Stephon Diggs, if it was Austin Eckler, if it was Bijan Robinson, the answer was yes. Your 1st-round pick. Yeah, your 1st-round pick can't win your league, but it can lose your league. We didn't mean if you play him in the championship, but that's how it went for some of these players this year. Tony Pollard. Top 8 pick coming for the Chargers. Who's the new coach? What are they going to do with it? Denver eliminated from the playoffs. And boy, Cecil, I can't wait to see what the package they give to move up is if they're moving from the teens up to number 1.
Yeah, let's do this thing and let's go for it. In the final game, we're going to talk about Cincinnati and Kansas City getting the win. KC 25-17. So plenty to discuss as everyone's got their eyes on Kansas City going, are you going to come alive at the right time? Are you going to come alive? Well, Isaiah Pacheco coming alive and Rashee Rice as well for that team. Let's talk about it. Wrap this thing up, baby.
Yeah, see, it's New Year's Eve. I don't know if y'all can hear all the fireworks. Got to drive over to the West Bank to get your fireworks in Jefferson Parish. But fireworks here on New Year's Eve. The fireworks for Kansas City were like one of those little ash snakes. That's the fireworks. A sparkler. All this retooling the offense, simplifying it, getting different guys, Richie James on the field. Justin Ross, on the field. It didn't really result very much. You actually saw Jake Browning playing pretty well. And let's add to Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, Jake Browning. These guys all deserve a chance to start at some point. As a bridge quarterback, something. Give these guys a chance. Jake Browning looks good against a good defense for about a half, and then the offensive line really started caving in as the game went on. Joe Mixon having a pretty solid game for you. What's the future hold for him? Is it Chase Brown time next year? Was Jamar Chase active? Oh, did I mention Jamar Chase? Another 1st-round pick that you should have benched today. another first-round pick that you were better off leaving on your bench. So that's 1/3 of the first round seats in most drafts. If Tony Pollard got in there, 5 out of 12 in a typical first round, that if you had them and they were active, you should have benched them today. And for every one of these guys, you should have known. I think even with Chase, you're asking a lot. He was up and down. Higgins hurts his hamstring, comes back in here. Cincinnati eliminated, playing Cleveland next week, picking the teams. It's just a rough offense. It's a lot of field goals. Harrison Butker won your championship for you if you still have kickers, right? This is a rough offense. This is hard. It looks like it's difficult. Sometimes I would say, like talking about the Steelers, it's like scoring a touchdown is like birthing a baby. Oh, cease. Half of the first round. If Tony Pollard's in the first round, Travis Kelce should have been on your bench. Travis Kelce. Tucker Kraft was a better play than Travis Kelce. And the game's not even in halftime. All right? Travis Kelce. So if you're asking yourself, should I bench Travis Kelce because he hasn't been doing anything? That was the answer. So a lot of people rewarded for divorcing the investment in some of these guys and actually playing them based on their momentum or lack of momentum. And Travis Kelce, one of those players. Rashee Rice, well, he's got a lot of momentum. We saw him graduate all the way up to being a wide receiver 1 for fantasy. And Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, the fight doctor. Isaiah Pacheco. And there's a theme here, something to remember. I know Rachaad White let us down, but the running backs who got touches by default, the running backs who were at the bottom tier of running backs we knew would lead their team in touches, Isaiah Pacheco, James Conner. These players were magnificent fantasy picks this year. Patrick Mahomes, maybe wasn't a first-round pick, but another one, if you say, well, I've got Patrick Mahomes, even in this game, Patrick Mahomes and Jake Brown, Patrick Mahomes and Joe Flacco, Patrick Mahomes and a lot of quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor, Patrick Mahomes, and a number of quarterbacks today. The not right answer was Patrick Mahomes. But you're locked into the 3 seed if you're Kansas City, and we'll see. I think they're going to have a dogfight. Whoever comes into Kansas City as the number 6 seed could be Miami, could be Buffalo, could be a lot of different teams. But I know this, the Chiefs offense is still going to look rough.
Could be time to get it on. So everyone have a safe and happy new year.
Please do.
Even if you're traveling to the island, boys.
I think everybody should have
Joe is going to hate us for this.
Yeah.
Hey, in 2024, buddy, can we stop talking about?
Well, it's the Sorry Joe shirt. I just want to tell everybody Merry Christmas and a Sorry Joe New Year.
I so wanted to cuss there, but
yeah,
anyway.
A happy Sorry Joe New Year. You Sorry Joe, Sorry Joe.
We're a bunch of Sorry Joes. So, yeah.
That's one other thing. If I'm not going to win the Sorry Joe championship, then I'm going to still give money to fantasycares.org/give back and still give money if you finish in second place because it's the Sorry Joe right thing to do. Sorry Joe.
All right. Peace, everyone. Stay tuned. Happy New Year. Stay frosty.